What is up, guys? Welcome back to another UFC prediction video. This weekend, we got Gabriel Bonfim taking on Belal Muhammad in the main event of what's a pretty stacked Apex card. Without any further ado, we're going to go ahead and get right into the full card predictions. All right, our first fight on the card, awesome fight, Tom Nolan versus Ziam. I'm going to be confidently picking Ziam here. I'll pick him to win by second round submission. He's not really a submission guy when you look at his earlier part of his career and also just his base skill set. He's an excellent kickboxer, very good striker, well put together, great technique. His range management and the use of his reach and height is absolutely amazing. Beautiful step in knees, excellent clinch work, does a lot of damage. And recently, I haven't really been super sold on him until his last performance. You know, Mike Davis, really bad cardio. He has like Lyme disease. Just not really a fighter that is at the high level because of a multitude of reasons. Matt Frivola, I'm not super high on. So I was kind of questioning Ziam. I actually picked Nazim Sadikov to beat him, but my God, that was an absolutely insane performance. And I think that Ziam is 100% a top 10 lightweight. Excellent jab. Leg kicks are super quick. On the feet, he's super fast. And against Sadikov, who's a well put together grappler in his own right, he submitted Terrence McKinney. That's got to say something. Ziam looked like Khabib out there. Excellent high crotch takedowns, nasty ground and pound, back taking ability, position over submission, and also just his footwork in the middle of the cage. He's never out of position. Great counter striking using his length. And don't get me wrong, Tom Nolan's a great fighter. He was able to knock out Bogdan Grad on the Contender Series. He presents some of the same things that Ziam does. He has good grappling, was able to submit Charlie Campbell last time out with the rear naked choke, but on the feet, wasn't doing too good. Gets hit more often than I would like because Ziam, he rarely even gets hit clean. Tom Nolan, we saw him get knocked out by Nicholas Mota brutally. We saw him get dropped by that absolute jobber. I don't even know what the guy's name was. Even though he was able to eventually TKO him, he did get dropped versus Martinez, and that's a bad look. Was able to beat Reyes, Alex Reyes, Dominic's brother, not that great. Was able to beat Borishev by decision in what was a decent performance, but Borishev, super one-dimensional and old and slow. Ziam is going to give Tom Nolan a world of trouble here, and the odds haven't came out on this fight yet. If Ziam is anything under minus 250, house call. Ziam is the next thing at lightweight. The dude is nasty. Been training with Justin Gaethje. You got to imagine training at that elevation has helped his cardio a lot. He's been in 2 championship training camps back to back in preparation for this fight, helping Justin Gaethje prepare for Paddy Pimblett, helping Justin Gaethje prepare for Ilia Topuria. Ziam has improved so much. He's incredibly impressive. Give me him by second round TKO. I think that he'll control the spacing in the octagon, manage his distance well, land jabs and leg kicks to where eventually he'll be able to get Tom Nolan to overextend, run into a takedown, or, he'll get him up against the fence. He'll have the advantageous moments in the 50-50 on the fence. Probably get that high crotch takedown and land some elbows to win the fight. So give me Ziam here, second round TKO. All right, our next fight on the card, Jordan Leavitt versus Joanderson Brito. Brito, not a guy I'm super high on anymore. He used to kind of have some aura when he was on that nice little win streak, but lost to Gomis, got absolutely dominated like he was a fucking amateur versus Pat Sabatini. But Pat Sabatini, one of the best grapplers in the sport. Brito, no setups on the feet. His striking education is definitely piss poor. He does have power in his hands, but no setups, no good defense, no feint game, nothing like that. A very raw striker. He's okay on the mat. Defensively, he's not very good. You think about his last fight, it was a debuting fighter, Thompson. Thompson was having some success early in that fight, sticking and moving with the long-rangey attacks. And, in terms of the grappling, it ended up being pretty close. But that's a guy on short notice who wasn't very experienced, nowhere near the experience of Jordan Leavitt. Jordan Leavitt also moving down from the lightweight division. He's going to have, he's going to be bigger than Brito in there. I don't know why it says 5'9" and 71-inch reach. He's going to definitely frame Mog Brito in there. I'm actually going to pick Jordan Leavitt here by submission. Jordan Leavitt, excellent grappler. He's one of these guys that kind of flies under the radar because He's very unassuming, kind of a goofy figure. You know, he got twerked on by Paddy Pimblett. That's crazy. But his skill set in terms of his Brazilian jiu-jitsu is absolutely nasty. Was able to submit Kurt Holobaugh, was able to easily beat Yider DeVille here. And I like those performances. You know, Yider, similar fighter to Joanderson Brito, although Yider's a southpaw. I think that Leavitt is going to be able to buy his time on the feet, and he'll be able to get a single leg, get that shit to the mat. And I think that he's not going to have much trouble controlling Brito from, you know, right-sided half guard, landing body head. Eventually, he could try to pass the guard, maybe get to crucifix position, land some elbows. But I think Jordan Leavitt's going to show out with his grappling here. He's not really a fighter that gets finished very often. You know, Paddy Pimblett finished him. Paddy Pimblett, damn near a championship level fighter. Jordan Leavitt, underrated. He's not very active, very unassuming, but I think he's going to win here against Joanderson Brito. So yeah, give me Leavitt by submission late. All right, next fight on the card. Excellent flyweight bout here. Edgar Chairez versus Bruno Silva. Both of these guys they have similar skill sets. You know, Edgar Chairez, in terms of his grappling, good reactive guillotine. He almost got Tatsudo Taira with that guillotine. Arguably beat Tatsudo Taira, which is a good performance. You know, looking at how Taira's career has progressed, he only lost to 29-28. Maybe a split decision there for Chairez. But Chairez, name of the game with him is just a gritty, pressure, Mexican boxing style. Decent kicks as well. He has a nice rear-sided front kick to the stomach. He will chop some leg kicks. He had some good early success with that against Josh Van. And coming in off a win against Brunez, he has some good performances back-to-back. You know, easily beat Vergara, Brunez. Maybe not the best performance there from him, considering it was a split decision. But that wasn't really a memorable fight, to be honest. But I do like Edgar Chairez's skill set. Not really the most polished fighter in terms of his technique, but he's super gritty, great cardio, great durability, and yeah, like I said, good reactive guillotine. And on the feet, I think it's going to be close. Bruno Silva, really good counter shots, you know, really good overhands to counter a jab. He'll slip and then rip 2 left hooks, great calf kicks, and solid grappling as well. I believe he was able to get a submission win over Park. Yeah, that was a good performance from him there. You know, last loss against Johnson and Joshua Van, no shame there. Championship caliber fighters. Lost to Manel Cap. You know, I think Cap's probably the best fighter in the division. And, you know, he was able to knock out Durden with that nasty uppercut. I think Bruno Silva is going to win this fight via 29-28 decision. I think that Chairez gets a little sloppy with his jab sometimes. I think that he doesn't really get sloppy with his jab sometimes, but he uses it pretty often, and it's not world class. My point is, I think that Bruno Silva is going to be able to counter the jab. Even though that Chairez is the bigger fighter here, I think that Bruno Silva will have a decent amount of success on the feet, changing levels, body, head, using those calf kicks. And I think that on the ground, Bruno Silva is a much better positional grappler. I think this could look a little bit like Renato Moicano versus Chris Duncan, if you will. So yeah, I'll take Bruno Silva 29-28 decision here in this one. All right, I quickly had to redo this pick because Jacob Wicklacz had to pull out of his fight versus Marcus Mcghee, but Marcus Mcghee still on the card. One of the better prospects at bantamweight. Now, he is an older fighter. I don't think he's going to really be sticking around too long, especially with how good the bantamweight division is, but he has a good skill set and he has some good wins in the UFC so far. And his only loss in his last fight versus Peter Yan, that's the champ now, arguably the best bantamweight to ever do it. And a hard stylistic matchup, let's be fair to him, but beat Jonathan Martinez. Even though he got hurt with the leg kicks a little bit there, he displayed good switch stance ability. He has very good switch hitting with his punches and his kicks. Very diverse striker. He throws spinning attacks, very good power in the hands, pretty accurate as well. When he gets guys hurt, tends to pick his shots well. You saw that in the Gaston Bolaños fight. And John Yannis, you know, decent fighter, good power in his hands. He's a scrapper. Was able to get a good TKO in his last fight versus Jamie Siraj, but Jamie Siraj not UFC level. Austin Bashi, you know, polished him up with an easy first round submission. Marcus Mcghee in his first UFC fight, I believe it was, did get a submission, over Newson. Even though that's not a high level of comp, he can go to the grappling as well. He's well rounded. Marcus Mcghee, I'm going to pick him here via second round TKO. I think his technicality is just going to be too much for John Yannis here. Fights out of the MMA lab. He's a well-coached fighter, and I think he's going to bounce back here with a second round TKO. Next fight on the card. This is probably the most lopsided matchup on the entire card. No need to spend too much time on this one. Schnell is going to lose by first round TKO to Emmanuel Rodriguez. Emmanuel Rodriguez is fast as fuck, boy. I mean, this dude, his speed is just insane. He has, really nuanced striking for an MMA fighter. He keeps his hips back. Reminds me of kind of a flyweight Michael Morales, if you will. Well-rounded fighter, but the striking is the name of the game. Borjas is a solid boxer, and he actually ended up hurting Emmanuel Rodriguez in that first round, but Emmanuel just mixed up the levels, body, leg kick, headshots, and just the speed of this dude striking. The straight shots are crispy. He's got a decent little check hook on him. Like I said, the kicking arsenal's, it gets it done. It's not anything to write home about, but very athletic, very, very quick. Strikes in a way that prevents takedowns very well. Like I said, he keeps his hips back, manages the range pretty well. But let's just be honest, Schnell, he just gets fucking bodied almost every time he's out there. And he just can't take a punch. Knocked out by Urseg, knocked out by Nicolau, subbed by Sumudurji, the kickboxer. His last win was Jimmy Flick, and that was kind of a scrappy fight. Morales, I forget his first name. The dude's a nasty grappler, was able to get a back take from crucifix position and then get a rear naked choke. One of the most high-level submissions I've seen in the UFC against Schnell in his last loss. But Emmanuel Rodriguez, first round TKO. No need to look too deep into this one. All right. Nice little fight here. Billy Elekana versus Iwo Baraniewski. Now, Billy Elekana, I actually respect him. Put some money in my pocket the last 2 times he has fought. So I give him credit there. Was able to knock out Kevin Christian, and then was able to finish Tafa. He did get knocked down badly in that fight, but eventually was able to get his game going, found that submission. Tafa has no subs, and in this Christian fight, he was getting his legs torn up. Damn near broke his fucking shin, I swear, versus Kevin Christian, but eventually timed a beautiful counter right hand and knocked him out cold. Had the nice little win versus, Ibo Aslan, which was a kind of a slow fight, but he did what he needed to do. And if he can do something similar here to Iwo Baraniewski, he might have success, because Baraniewski is a guy that comes out hot, swinging heavy in a similar fashion to Ibo Aslan. And he did lose to Bogdan Guskov, but that was, a high level of competition. Billy Elekana, decent kicks, okay, striking at range. He's tough and he's well put together, very durable, never gives up on himself, solid cardio. We saw that in his 3-round fight versus Aslan. We saw that with him being able to recover after the knockdown versus Tafa. And I do like what I see from Billy Elekana overall. Decent submission game. Was giving Bogdan Guskov a little bit of trouble early with the subs. Submission attempts and grappling, my mistake there. But Iwo Baraniewski truly has a bit of an X factor to him. That last win versus Austin Lane, nothing to really write home about in terms of the level of comp. But this dude's hand speed and power is crazy. Absolute bar fight versus Aslan, and stained Austin Lane easily. And Baraniewski, he's not the most technical fighter, but like I said, the name of the game is just the big power in his hands. I hear he has a judo background. I'm not going to bring that up much until I see it in the octagon. But the way Billy Elekana got knocked down by Tafa, you know what I think about Tafa. You guys know what I think about him. He's trash. And Baraniewski's much better. I think Baraniewski finds a first round TKO here. Elekana, the head movement and the boxing defense is what's going to cost him this fight. He's a good fighter, but this is a bad stylistic matchup for him. Baraniewski, heavy-handed, pretty accurate. Elekana, bad defense. Even though he's tough, the chin is kind of up in the air. Baraniewski shuts his lights off in the first round with a big right hook. So yeah, give me Iwo here. First round TKO. Bryce Mitchell versus Victor Henry. This fight actually got canceled, so I'm not going to, go into detail here. No need to talk about a fight that's not going to occur, but I would have been picking Bryce Mitchell by like 29-28 decision. All right, co-main event of the evening. Awesome fight here at middleweight. Brendan Allen versus Edmund Shahbazyan. I'm going to pick Brendan Allen here. I think the grappling is going to be the name of the game for him in this fight. He has good grappling, was able to out-grapple Marvin Vettori, was able to out-grapple Rainer de Ritter, and had good moments against Anthony Hernandez in terms of the grappling, took his back at times, was able to get mount at times, and he's a very, very good grappler in terms of getting to advantageous positions. Not always the most dangerous submission threat, or not always the most dangerous with his ground and pound. We saw that in the first round of this Imavov fight. He got him down, but didn't do anything with it. Hard 5 rounds versus Chris Curtis, easily finished Paul Craig. Brendan Allen, one of the more underrated fighters, I'd say, at middleweight. I thought that Rayner would be able to beat him, but Rayner really didn't show up himself in that fight. But Edmen Shahbazyan, he is an excellent kickboxer, very good snappy kicks, in and out movements, pretty solid. He's got a good counter right hand that he can put guys down with, was able to knock out Budka with that, was able to knock out Muniz with that, and I like the performance against Petrosky, but he wasn't able to get a finish there. But this is the kicker right here. He lost to GM3. And don't get me wrong, I know GM3 is like top 5 ever, but this is not prime GM3. And a washed up, half drunk GM3 who literally finished a couple shots of Jack while he was warming up. He didn't even warm up. The couple shots of Jack was actually GM3's warm up before that fight. He got dropped by a body shot, and then Edmen, he does what Edmen does. Sometimes if Edmen can't get that early finish, he tends to fade badly. And we saw that in the Fluffy fight. We saw that in I believe it was the Brunson fight back in the day. We saw that against GM3. And Brendan Allen possesses very similar skill sets to all of those fighters, and he has great cardio and great grappling. So that's a bad style matchup for Edmen. And also, Allen's tough. He's not a guy that gets dropped or knocked down very often. If you don't get finished by Imavov, you're not getting finished by Edmen Shahbazyan. So give me Brendan Allen here. I'll call a submission. I think we're going to get a decent amount of subs on this card. So yeah, give me Brendan Allen here by submission over Shahbazyan in a very similar fashion to how GM3 got him. I think Shahbazyan wins round 1, but after that gets tired. Brendan Allen's going to get to the hips, get his hands locked, get him down, and it's going to be a matter of time from there. So yeah, I'll take Brendan Allen round 3 submission, maybe a submission effort, and then Shahbazyan's not tapping, he postures up and gets a ground and pound TKO. So yeah, I'll take Brendan Allen to win in round 3 here. All right, we move on to the main event of the evening. I really do like this fight. Gabriel Bonfim versus Belal Muhammad. Now, Gabriel Bonfim is a guy that I'm really high on. I think his skill set is truly exceptional for the division. Excellent calf kicks, solid kicking arsenal overall. His boxing is solid. He's a guy that does have submission ability, but he lets his hands go. You look at that Trey Waters fight, in his Contender Series fight. You look at his last performance versus Randy Brown, was able to get that nice knee, was able to beat Thompson, was able to absolutely school Chaos Williams, completely schooled Chaos Williams, jabbed his face off, calf kicked him to fuck, and then eventually submitted him and put him out cold. Gabriel Bonfim, I like his jab. I think his jab is going to be a big factor for him here in this fight against Belal Muhammad. Gabriel Bonfim has an excellent jab, like I said, excellent calf kicks. That was a fight-deciding factor for him in both of his most prominent wins against Chaos Williams and against Randy Brown. The calf kick paid huge dividends for him in both of those fights. With his boxing, not a lot of power. He does let his hands go. He's aggressive, which I like. But what I will say about his combination punching and boxing overall is that he's very, very inaccurate. He whiffs a lot of shots. Now, his technique is smooth. He'll parry 3-2-3 and it looks excellent, but he will barely land it. I think his footwork kind of fails him in terms of being able to move forward while he's punching. But I'm kind of getting too intricate with the details here. The point I'm trying to make is that Gabriel Bonfim, he lets his hands go, but a lot of the times he don't do enough damage because he's not super accurate. You think of maybe Chimaev versus Strickland. Chimaev was throwing a lot. He was almost matching Strickland for, in terms of just effort statistics, but he just was not landing at an accurate clip. And that's Gabriel Bonfim's issue. His jab is accurate, but all of his shots other than that, right hand's not very accurate, left hook's not very accurate. He tends to whiff a lot of shots. And obviously the elephant in the room is that fight versus Nicholas Dalby back in the day, where Dalby, who's a pressure fighter, was able to just weather the early storm and then eventually mauled him in the clinch with the knees. Gabriel Bonfim does have a good reactive submission game. I believe it was his UFC debut. He got a very nice guillotine submission. Was also able to sub Trey Waters on their Contender Series fight. But as much as I love Gabriel Bonfim's game, and as much as I rate him, I think he could beat a lot of guys in this division. I think he could beat maybe Jack Della Maddalena. I think he could give Yaroslav Amosov some problems if he could stop the takedowns. I think he could beat Sean Brady. I think he could beat Joaquin Buckley. Maybe not Sean Brady. I'll take that back. I think he could beat Joaquin Buckley. I think he could beat a lot of guys in this division, but Belal Muhammad's kind of a bad matchup for him because Belal, we know the name of the game with him. He's mediocre everywhere, but he's tough as fucking nails, and he does not stop coming forward. Last fight was against Ian Gary. He didn't do bad in that fight. You know, he did get 30-27. You could maybe make an argument that he stole the middle round, I believe. But Belal Muhammad, sorry about that motorcycle outside. Belal Muhammad, in that fight versus Ian Gary, was getting razor close to landing some good right hands. And he didn't take a lot of damage in that fight. You know, he kind of got skill mogged because he's nowhere near the striker Ian Gary is. Ian Gary is absolutely phenomenal with his footwork, and it's such a problem for these guys. It could be a problem for Islam. Made Carlos Prates look like he had never struck a day in his life, Ian Gary, and also avoided all the takedowns from Belal Muhammad that came from footwork. Ian Gary is next level good. Just how good is Shavkat Rakhmonov, though? But Belal Muhammad, I don't think he's going to be getting damaged as much as the Jack Della Maddalena fight because, you know, he ran into a lot of punches there against Jack. He wasn't going for his takedowns like he needed to in that fight. And I actually picked Belal to beat JDM. Looking back on it, I felt stupid in the moment watching JDM piece up Belal and make it look easy. But I had reason to pick Belal Muhammad in that fight. And after JDM's last two performances, especially the performance against Islam, I don't think it was crazy to pick Belal via grappling in that fight. But the level of comp as well, nowhere even close in terms of comparison. Randy Brown and Chaos Williams, those guys aren't even ranked level welterweights. Belal, JDM, Ian Gary, Leon Edwards, you know, he's fought much higher level comp. And I think that this could look similar to the Ian Gary fight. I think that Belal, he's going to be in Gabriel Bonfim's face. Bonfim's going to be throwing a lot, but he's not going to be nearly as accurate as JDM, so the damage isn't going to pile up as fast on Belal. I think Belal is going to work his takedowns a lot more in this fight. 5 rounds helps Belal a lot in this one because Bonfim, kind of a raw fighter, doesn't manage the minutes incredibly well. You know, he does win minutes good because of his pressure and his activity, but we haven't seen him in championship rounds before. We've seen him get tired against Dalby. Belal Muhammad brings a similar style to that. I think Belal's going to be able to bank rounds with takedowns, position over submission, just ground and pound. Play it safe on the feet, you know, mainly just kick at range. Try not to go speed for speed with Bonfim because Bonfim's very quick in the pocket. Keep it at range. If you do try to crash the pocket, make sure it's, you know, behind the black line. Get straight to the hips. Because I think, you know, in the middle of the cage, Bonfim's not really going to be landing effectively, except for maybe calf kicks. But Belal, he's a championship caliber fighter. He can deal with leg kicks. And I think that once the pressure starts to build from Belal, he's going to be able to win a classic, you know, 48-47 split decision. I think Bonfim might steal the second and third round. But I think championship rounds, Belal's going to be in there. I don't see Belal Muhammad jumping into a submission. He's way too advanced for that. He'll be able to just, you know, get his hips to the other side if it's a guillotine. I don't see Bonfim taking his back or anything like that. As long as Belal can get the wrestling going, which I believe he will be able to, I think he can chain wrestle here, even if Bonfim stops the initial shot. Like I said, if it's not a heavy pressure grappler, I like Bonfim a lot. I like him against strikers. I like him especially against, you know, counter punchers and stuff like this. But yeah, against a heavy pressure grappler who's tough as nails, who's coming in off of a fight against a much higher caliber fighter, give me Belal here. Decision, 48-47 split. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like, a comment, subscribe. That means a lot to me. It helps me out a lot. And have a great rest of your day. Enjoy the card this weekend.